This week on the Cardinal Report, we're hanging out with the North Central women's soccer team. They're in the thick of their season, and we caught up with them just as they battled Beloit College to a non-conference victory this week. We'll also be joined by Cardinal coach Jenni Kapanen to talk about this year's squad and have much more as the Cardinal Report continues. Coach Jenni Kapanen already holds North Central's women's soccer record for career wins and is looking for her team to keep piling them on with only 5 regular season games remaining. The Cardinals also have a chance to break the school's single season wins total, most goals scored, and fewest goals allowed. Along with that, the team is looking to qualify for the CCIW tournament. Coach Kapanen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
You started off this season really hot, 6-1. I think you outscored your opponents something like 25-6 in the first 7 games. Can you kind of just talk about the first half of the season and how you scored so many goals?
Well, obviously we got off to a really strong start, and I'm sure that there are lots of reasons for it, but I have a really strong squad returning from not just last year, but just veterans in general. And I think we finally got to the point in the season that people knew what to expect coming in, and we certainly set our goals higher than ever before. And really started looking for those results right away instead of waiting around halfway through the season. So lots of reasons, lots of people who can contribute this season.
How does that start of the season really help kind of not only the next week or the week after, but essentially the entire season?
Well, I think you set the tone for the rest of the season. I'm not really score-driven, result-driven early on in the season, because sometimes you just want to try things out. You go with different formations, you try different lineups, you try different people in different possessions. But in terms of still getting that confidence, it's huge just because you need to get those wins under your belt, so you then get ready for conference season. But as said, long-term thinking always allows you to just focus on playing first, and then if you play well, the wins will follow.
Now we're looking at 5 regular season games left. Do you feel like you've found that winning formula or combination with the girls that you have on the field, particularly with what you've done the last week or two?
Well, I think we have found the winning formula. I think we know how to win. It's just a matter of coming out and bringing the consistency and just approaching one game at a time. And it all starts out in practices and having that same mentality. And so, there's no doubt about it. We know how to win. It's just a matter of going out there and doing the things that we need to do to get it done.
Now, with that record to start the season, it wasn't just the offense. The defensive played exceptionally well, like we had mentioned, only allowing 6 goals, but also recording 3 shutouts. Is there something that you preach at practice, whether it be focusing more on the offensive side or defensive side, or are you just trying to find a balance between the two?
Well, you want to find the balance, but I think your best offense starts with a strong defense, and it's not so much about what I preach. It's just kind of the philosophy that we've come up with as a team. And so as much as I might, emphasize certain points, it's really what the team tells themselves. It's the players, what they keep doing in practices, what they keep telling each other. So as said, some focus on offense, some focus on defense, but it all starts with that defensive mentality.
Right. Now, at this point, the team is 7-5. You competed against Beloit College. This past week, you won 3-0. Some of the closer games in the regular season, you dropped 3 overtime games. Very close competitions, one with a CCIW opponent. With those 3 overtime games, is there something that you've learned from that or have taken from that you can really kind of use going forward? I know a loss is a loss, but ultimately there's something to be gained from that. Do you guys feel like you've learned something from those 3 games?
Yeah, with every game that you play, you always learn something, and a loss is a loss, a win is a win. But I think a loss is a loss if you don't take anything from that. And we always try to move forward and try to learn from the mistakes we make. And sometimes it's mistake we make. Sometimes things just don't quite go our way. So as much as we control our destiny, there's always a lesson to be learned.
Right. Now, getting back to that Beloit victory this past week, you scored the first 3 goals in that first half. Scoring early, how important is it for your team to get that first goal of the game? What does it do for the team's mentality thereafter?
Well, it's so essential. Putting teams away early and not saying that a game is ever over until it's over. I think every coach is a little paranoid. Every coach keeps saying, well, the game isn't over until it's over, even if you're up by 10 goals. But I think it just really allowed the players to relax, allowed me to make more changes in the lineup, allowed me to get some of the players in that hadn't had a chance to go in as much, gave them a chance to show their teammates they can get it done, and hopefully show me that they can get it done as well. So it really was a great way to start a game, and I think helped us tremendously.
Right. After the game, we caught up with Emma Bader, sophomore, scoring that first goal. She referred to something that the team calls a quick two. Can you kind of explain a quick two and what that, again, means to the team?
Well, I think it kind of started out with one of our players who used the same term in high school, and just starts out with that mental, physical focus on intensity. Maybe the first 2 minutes of a half, last 2 minutes of a half, last 2 minutes, or first 2 minutes after scoring a goal, first 2 minutes after being scored on. So whatever it is, it's just a quick reminder for everyone. Okay, let's stay focused, and we want to focus for 90 minutes, but it starts with that one minute increment. So that's what it means.
Right. Going out into that second half again, you scored the 3 goals early. What's the strategy like going into that second half, whether it's a conference game or non-conference game, with a lead like 3-0?
Well, the strategy is obvious to go out and score another 3, if not another 6 goals. So we don't go there holding ourselves back, and we don't believe in trying to play defense or anything like that. That's usually when you run into trouble. So, but even with that, as much as you adjust some things at halftime, my focus is always on just continuing to play, continue to make minor adjustments, and the goals will follow. If you only focus on scoring, if you only focus on winning a game, a lot of times you get too focused on the details that then end up getting in the way.
Now, Beloit coach Liz Bartley had mentioned after the game that the teams looked very similar, maybe a similar style of play or the position of the players on the field. All in all, it looked like North Central had faster players, maybe more physical players. The time of possession was definitely in your hands. When you go into a game with a team that maybe matches up very similar to your team, is there any strategy that you're changing at the game time, or are you still kind of approaching the game as you normally would?
Well, of course, there's always a strategy going in. There's a strategy going in, there's a strategy at halftime, and then there's not a whole lot you can do after the halftime. You just have your would-haves and could-haves at the end of the game. But in general, we try to just take a few pointers out of the other team based on if we've seen them play before, Cardinal Report and such. But our goal is to make them play our game. So our goal is to keep playing our formation, our system, and there's not one system that's going to beat another system. Ultimately, it's the team effort. The players themselves that will make a difference. So some strategy, but as said, you kind of play with what you know at that point, and then you just hope that your system is good enough that it will take care of business.
Excellent. Now, along with Coach Liz Bartley, we had an opportunity to catch up with another Beloit player and 2 players from North Central College in this week's edition of What's the Word?
Well, we always want to score first because it puts the other team on their heels and makes us play a little bit better, knowing that we can put the ball away.
What was working well is keeping the ball on the ground because it's obviously windy, and so moving the ball as quickly as possible on the ground and utilizing like a drop pass instead of just forcing it forward. So figuring out who's open, working the ball around before we actually made like the final attack toward the goal.
What they did a very good job of initially was communication, and their team shape was very good. They kept us very compact so that we didn't have much space to move in, so that we need to figure out switching fields and trying to separate them. And I think in second half we were able to do that a little bit more and find more success and be able to be a little more offensive.
I think some things that were out of our control kind of took our minds out of the game, and we weren't able to focus on things that we needed to take care of. But towards the end of that first half, we pulled it together, and then after the halftime talk, I think we even stepped it up even more and got aggressive like North Central was.
What the defense is doing is mainly we try and stay close to our marks. So as soon as they were to receive the ball, even at midfield, we'd be really tight on their backs so that they know they can't go forward, try and forcing them back. Also, another thing defense is doing is trying to get the ball out, like out wide, trying to find those flanks instead of just keep forcing it right back into them. So we also try and play with it as much urgency as we have being in the defensive part. We try and still look for the feet of our players and work it around.
This is a good school for us to play, and I think it will always be a competitive match. I think good, physical, strong play.
Coming up, we'll be joined by Cardinal goalkeeper Elise Manzi and forward Nora Wessels. Stay tuned.